Yeah, I couldn't believe what I heard today. It's a day of surprises. Today from Wang Jining. He's the deputy to the Chinese ambassador here. He writes nice English, very good. He wrote in the Australian newspaper today how shocked he was by how little Australians appreciated communist China, ignorant particularly of the many humane, rational, intelligent and most importantly democratic features of the Chinese political establishment. You gotta be kidding. China democratic. You gotta wonder whether this man takes us for fools. I mean, Article 1 of the Constitution of his communist Chinese regime is very explicit. It says China is a socialist state under a people's democratic dictatorship, and any sabotage of the socialist system by an organisation or individual is prohibited, which means it's actually against the law to be a democrat in China. We can read, Mr. Wang, and we're not blind either. We can see now, right now, in Hong Kong, how China refuses to give the people there their democratic freedoms. But Mr. Wang, this Chinese diplomat, actually set us a challenge. He said we should talk more to Chinese people whose views, he said, seldom surface here. We must make an effort to know the Chinese perspective, and to start with, study Mandarin. Well, Mr. Wang, I'm not going to study Mandarin, but the rest of that, I'm going to take up your challenge in just a second. First, the question, China, is it killing political prisoners to steal their organs for transplants? Now, 4 years ago, China did admit, this humane China, that's exactly what it's been doing. But it had now stopped, it said, only voluntary donations accepted. But then observers started to notice, how come in China there's almost organs on demand? Rock up, you don't actually have to wait long for a liver or whatever. And in June this year, the China Tribunal reported on just that. That's an independent panel chaired by British QC from the UN's International Criminal Tribunal. And this panel concluded, with certainty it said, that forced organ harvesting had happened in multiple places in China. It had done so for 20 years and continued to this day. And most of the organs, it said, came from followers of Falun Gong, which is a kind of spiritual meditation group that China has banned. You see it protesting against Chinese embassies and consulates here. Well, just last week, a study by the Australian National University said much the same. The Chinese government has been faking its statistics to hide that it was still stealing organs from prisoners, more and more. But Mr. Wang of the Chinese embassy says, wait, communist China is humane and democratic and all that, and to appreciate that we have to talk to a person from China and in Mandarin preferably. So I will now do just that. Tony Liu is Chinese. He was arrested for following Falun Gong. He was tortured and says he escaped being killed for his organs only because he signed a statement renouncing Falun Gong. He testified before the China Tribunal this year. He's now in Australia, thank God, for safety, and he joined me earlier. We had to use an interpreter. Tony Liu, thank you so much for joining me. Can you start by telling me, why were you arrested? What was your crime?
I was arrested because I was a Falun Gong practitioner who didn't want to renounce his belief. It was in November 2006. The police actually, I was studying in China University of Petroleum, and I was a student then. Then the police came into my university, come into my dormitory. They found Falun Gong music and the material on my computer. That's why they arrested me.
And how were you treated in jail?
Yeah, without any legal procedure, they sentenced me for 2 years labor re-education, and they sent me to the Tuanhe labor re-education camp for 2 years. When I was in the Tuanhe dispatch center, they locked me up with the drug addicts. They kicked me and hit me in order for me to give up my belief. Once, when there was one drug addict who was hitting my back, and another drug addict came in and said, "Stop hitting his back." I think because he probably knew the order from above not to hit me in that area. He actually said, "Do not damage his organs." I thought to myself, it was really for helping me. He would say, "Please do not hit that person." They wouldn't say, "Do not damage his organ." After I was moved to the Tuanhe labor re-education camp, the torture method got worse. I was not allowed to move. I was asked to sit on a small bench for the whole day. I wasn't allowed to move. As soon as I moved, somebody would hit me. For a period of time, I was not allowed to sit down. I was asked to stand for a long period of time. I wasn't allowed to go to the toilet. I had to defecate and urinate in my pants, and I actually need to eat in the same room.
Tony Liu, what makes you think you escaped being killed for your organs?
Because when I was in the labor camp, at least once or twice a year, we were asked to have physical examination, and it was carried out in the Tuanhe Dispatch Center, the hospital, and I was blood tested and x-rayed. Okay, there was once really stood out because we were not sent to hospital. It was carried out in the Tuanhe labor re-education camp. They took 2 tubes of blood from me. There was no result given about these health examinations. The way they treat us is it's like a torture. So I don't think this is for our good.
How did you get out?
That's because I was forced to write the renounce statement of not practicing Falun Gong. I did that against my will, and it was because I really couldn't take it anymore physically. It was a terrible feeling because it is like you suffer a spiritual death.
Do you think Australians understand enough about what the Chinese Communist Party actually is like?
I think Australian people do not know enough about the Chinese Communist Party. Even for myself, it took me a long time to gradually understand what the CCP really is. From young, we were brainwashed, and we were fed with lies. The Chinese Communist Party governed with violence as well. So we were brainwashed to believe the party is always correct, and it is like as dear as our own mother.
What do you want Australia to do?
I hope Australian people can help spread the true facts of the crime of the Chinese Communist Party and the crime towards Falun Gong practitioners and the crime they committed towards other Chinese people. Because in China we have this great firewall which prevent people get the true information and news. But in Australia we can, spread the truth and facts like that. So once people find out the truth, they will use their own way from their heart to help.
Tony Liu, I'm glad you made it to Australia and to safety, and thank you so much for telling us about what you've gone through.
I would like to thank you, Andrew, very much too for giving me this interview, because this will help more people to understand the facts and Falun Gong practitioners in China, as well as many prisoners of conscience in China.
Well, it's no more than I think is my duty, so thank you very much, Tony Liu.